Okay, continuing our trend with things you cannot buy. Here is a new graphics card yet again. This one's from AMD, or AMD and PowerColor, their new RX 6800 XT Red Devil, and I feel very conflicted about these types of videos lately. I mean, overall I just feel bad. I feel bad for you guys. It makes me feel really guilty actually that vendors send us these awesome products and I get to show them off to you guys, but you can't buy them. They're nowhere to be found. And this is the case with pretty much all the new cool hardware that's come out towards the end of this year. The Ampere GPUs from NVIDIA, and now the RX 6800 or 6000 series from AMD, and also the new Ryzen Zen 3 processors, Ryzen 5000 series, are just out of stock everywhere. So it kind of sucks that, you know, it has to be this way. 2020 just continues to prove itself as the worst year ever. But at the same time, as bad as I feel showing you guys this stuff that you can't get, I would feel even worse if I just didn't do anything with these products and just left them on the shelf and didn't really give them any sort of attention because they are cool products. And also, I'm hoping that one day, eventually, we will be able to buy these things at some point in the future. And when that day comes, I'll feel a little bit better knowing that the content that I made on these products, showing everything to you, was not completely in vain. Today's video is brought to you by Slick Deals and their super awesome browser extension. Not only is the extension completely free, guys, but it automatically finds you the best deals on your favorite retail sites to save you the most money possible. And all the deals that it shows you are actually curated by the Slick Deals community, so you only see offers that have been upvoted by other shoppers like you. You go to a retailer's website, click the Slick Deals icon, and bam! You're in Deal City. Population deals. I didn't really know what to expect the very first time I used it, but literally within seconds I was finding all kinds of offers. Like there was a B550 motherboard for 30% off or something like that, where I was like, okay, I don't need that, but that's a really good deal. The extension also finds you any site-related coupons you otherwise might not have seen, and it lets you create deal alerts with email and mobile push notifications. I mean, with Black Friday and the holidays right around the corner, this is like the perfect tool to catch all the deals without doing any of the legwork. About 20 million people will be using Slick Deals to help them save money while shopping. So again, it's completely free and saves you money on stuff like computer hardware. Need I continue? If you like saving money, which is a dumb thing to say because who doesn't, click on the link in the description below to start using the Slick Deals browser extension today. We're gonna start off with an unboxing. I'm not gonna do like a ton of benchmarks because I have some other like content that I'm working on right now, but I'm gonna do some overclocking. We're gonna do some overclocking and we're gonna validate the overclock. We're gonna do some before and after tests to see if our performance has actually gone up. More on that later, and we're also gonna test things like thermals, noise, and power draw and stuff like that. So it should be pretty interesting. This card has been, you know, making its rounds on the internet in terms of like leaked photos and images. I know there was like one YouTuber from overseas who did an overclocking video on it, and that was kind of interesting, but I think that video has been pulled down because it might have been released too soon. But when you open the box, you get some documentation that no one really cares about, but it's there if you want. You can join the Red Devil Club if you want to be a hardcore GPU person. This is just a piece of paper. Oh, okay, we got some information on the back here. It's a lot of words, a lot of text. I'll probably just go, oh, that was close. Almost fell off there. I'll probably just go over it as we look at the card. I'm gonna try to remember everything that I just read on the back of this box. So when you open it up, here's what you're greeted with. The card itself, we've got, it looks like there was supposed to be something here, but maybe that's just nothing. And then we have two keycaps, it looks like. That's kind of cool. So this is actually the limited edition. Let's just pull here. This is a limited edition retail package. So I think it's numbered. Like there's supposed to be a serial number. Maybe it's on the card itself, but there's supposed to be like only 1,000 of these made this way. With the limited edition, you know, for what it's worth, because you can't get these cards anyway, you do get some nice custom keycaps. There's one right there, the nice little embossed Red Devil logo. There's the other one with the raised logo thingy. There's a sticker, got a sticker. I thought that was like a fake tattoo at first. This is an addressable RGB cable, so you can actually connect this to your card on one end and then to your motherboard on the other, assuming you have a 5-volt 3-pin addressable RGB header, and that'll allow you to easily sync and control the lighting on this card within the PowerColor software, which we may or may not demo today, I'm not sure yet. But let's take a look at the card. This is the main event. The main attraction. Okay, graceful, very graceful unboxing, Kyle. Pulling up a seat here. Let's take a look at this big boy. Ooh, he big. She thick, boys. She real thick. All right, let's actually do a comparison. Where's my reference? 6800 XT over here. straight from NVIDIA, of course, and we're gonna line it up. Okay, so here's this profile. It is quite a bit lengthier. Again, we're gonna do it the old-fashioned way. Good old ruler. Too lazy to look it up online. So we're just gonna guesstimate here. So this is almost about as long as the RTX 3080 Supreme from MSI. I wanna say it's around 13 inches. You obviously wanna check the manufacturer's page for the exact measurement, but yeah, roughly you're looking at maybe 12 3/4 to 13 inches long, and it is much thicker as well, quite a bit thicker than AMD's model. Yeah, you're looking at around 2.5-ish inches overall. So big card. You wanna make sure you have room for it, obviously. We also have a triple fan design. Triple fan, the fan in the middle is 90 millimeters and the two on the ends are 100 millimeters. So slightly different fan sizes there. But overall, it's a pretty attractive looking card. And speaking of triple things, it is also triple slot. Very beefy indeed. While we're back here, I might as well just point out the rear I/O. Two DisplayPort 1.4A ports, one HDMI 2.0B port, and a USB Type-C port. And these have backlighting on them, so they'll actually light up. So when you're trying to fish around to plug things in, or maybe even unplug things from behind your card, you don't have to fish around in the dark. It's already there. Don't need to get a flashlight out or anything like that. Kind of a cool feature. You don't really see that on many cards, so it's definitely one of the unique things about this card right off the bat. But we have some interesting design language here, some like stripiness. It's kind of stripy, and I believe those are backlit as well. We'll find out once we actually put the card on the test bench, but those look pretty backlit. Now the Shroud itself is actually pretty high quality. If you see that it looks like one single piece, right, on this Shroud, but it's actually two pieces. There's like an outer piece that's all metallic and feels really sturdy. It's like a single piece of, I don't know if this is aluminum or what, but kind of goes all the way around. It's kind of like the trim outline of the Shroud, and then the internal piece, which is everything you see here. This is plastic. You can kind of see it's all shiny and stuff. So it's kind of shiny plastic. Most of it's matte, but then the stripiness is all shiny, a little glossy. But this part right here is kind of like a nice matte metallic finish all the way around the card that gives it a really nice kind of, I don't know, a smooth and sexy looking finish. It just looks really nice, especially when you look at it from this end. This is all metallic. Plastic part of the Shroud is not visible. It's only visible on this side, so you won't even see it unless you're doing like some vertical GPU mounting. And also notice just how much heatsink is exposed here. Usually you don't see that much heatsink from this side of the card. So that tells you, a lot of heat's gonna be ejected inside your case, as a lot of these add-in board partners are designed. But as long as you have adequate cooling, you should be good there. And that is a fat heatsink. There's 7 heat pipes, I believe. I want to say 7 copper heat pipes, and it looks like they're nickel plated. I believe 3 of them are 8 millimeters thick, and then you've got 4 of them that are 6 millimeters thick. So, and those look like they go all the way through from right to left, all the way through the heatsink for absolute heat dissipation. There's also max direct contact on the GPU from the copper base plate. It's actually covering both the GPU die as well as all the memory modules around it. So it's like a fatty base plate as well, which is kind of cool. Dual 8-pin power connectors. They actually recommend an 850 watt power supply for this card, where I believe it's 750 watt for AMD's in-house model, so you are going to want a beefier power supply as well to drive this thing. Speaking of power, this is a custom PCB, of course, and we do have custom power delivery as well. It's a 14+2-phase power design with Dr. Moss. The card also features high polymer capacitors as well, so yeah, pretty well built, I would say. We'll actually do once we do the overclocking, it'll be interesting to see how high this clocks. Not just how high it clocks, but what kind of performance gain we see over the reference model there. As far as the core frequency goes, I honestly couldn't even find the specs on the PowerColor website. Maybe I'm just blind, but I do believe I saw like a videocards.com article that said the boost clock on this card was somewhere around 2,340. Don't quote me on that. That's a rough ballpark estimate if my memory serves me right, which it usually doesn't, but that would be quite a bit faster than this guy. So we'll see how much further we can take that once we start overclocking. We also have a lot of LEDs right here. This is a very unique design choice, but I think it looks kind of cool. It kind of reminds me of like bones, like almost like a rib cage. I don't know. It looks kind of weird, but I'm sure it looks a lot nicer once it's all lit up and stuff. But yeah, LEDs on both sides. Of course, you can leave it disabled if you want. Over here, I thought I spotted a dual BIOS switch. Yeah, right there. Right there's a dual BIOS switch for 2 modes. You can do overclock or silent. I always keep it in OC. A lot of these board partner cards, not all of them, but a lot of them are quiet enough in the performance mode, so I don't really see the point in stifling clock speed or frame rate just to get it a little bit quieter. Of course, we'll test it out in just a moment. We also have a very nice backplate that's also fully metallic with a lot of ventilation, especially on the right side here, but also going across the whole back of the card. Also provides a bit of heat dissipation, I would imagine. Here's another Red Dragon logo that's also backlit. And and here's the limited edition stamp right there. Number 40 out of 1,000. So 1,000 of these limited edition retail cards made. And already talked about the rear I/O. Let's pop this thing on the test bed. All right, here it is. Just want to give you guys a quick look at what the card looks like when it's actually lit up and stuff and actually running. Pretty unique implementation for lighting here that you don't really see too much on graphics cards these days. I mean, the fact that most of the LED action is happening right here on the end of the card is definitely not something you see every day. And I really kind of like what they did here, how it's sort of asymmetrical, you know? Like there's only lighting on this right side of the card, there's nothing over here, but and it kind of like fades, like it's brighter on the right and then it kind of tapers off. I think it just looks really cool. Has a nice little effect there. And of course, backlit Red Devil logo on the back plate. Everything looks pretty classy. As far as clock speeds go, because I've already done some testing with this card, it's been a couple hours actually since the last shot that we just did. But clock speed wise, this is running at a sustained clock speed or a core clock frequency on the GPU of around 2,421. That's about 120 megahertz roughly faster than what the reference design was able to achieve at 2,302 megahertz. So right out of the box, without touching any dials or knobs, this thing's already going to be operating with a factory OC, and you're most likely going to get a little bit more performance even without doing any kind of manual overclocking. It does consume a little bit more power than the reference design. This was drawing 490 watts from the wall, not the card itself, but the whole system, 490 watts versus 509. So roughly a 20 watt increase, which isn't a lot. It's not like you're going to need a completely new power supply to drive this card versus that one, unless you're overclocking. If you're going to be doing some serious overclocking, which honestly, this card is pretty much engineered to do just that, then that it kind of makes sense why they're recommending an 850 watt unit instead of a 750 watt PSU with the reference design. I'm also happy to report that this card runs very cool and quiet. We hit a maximum of 70 degrees Celsius in our Unigine Heaven 4.0 test at 1440p, 70 degrees Celsius versus 78C, so we immediately just cut off, or I should say PowerColor has shaved off 8 degrees right off the bat with this custom cooler. And they've also managed to make this card run very quietly as well. I haven't actually listened to it side by side with headphones and stuff compared to the reference, but you guys can listen for yourself. I absolutely know 100% though that if you're just running it, and this was in the OC profile, not even in silent mode, again, didn't even touch that, but if you're running it in OC mode with the stock fan curve, this is what it sounds like. Since I've had a little time to play around with this card, I've also gone ahead and set in an overclock. Took me a while to overclock it to really fine tune and figure out what its limits were. I have not done any overclocking on the RX 6000 series so far, so I was kind of doing all this and learning everything for the first time. I have watched a couple of videos on overclocking these cards. The one from Gamers Nexus, the review is just super awesome and very detailed as well. And I was experiencing some similar findings as they were. But here's my actual overclocking settings. For starters, I have adjusted the fan curve slightly, so it's going to ramp up a little bit more aggressively, not to 100%, because the card already runs plenty quiet. So even when overclocking, I didn't feel the need that it needed to go that high. Just to keep acoustics more in check and stuff. And then power tuning, I just maxed that out to 115, or I guess that's a plus 15% offset there, just to open that up. The power envelope is maxed out, and then we've also got this frequency range of 2600 is our minimum frequency, and then it maxes out at 2700. So the way that this works, AMD, is this considered Wattman? I don't know, whatever. This tuning software from AMD, you have to leave the range 100 megahertz apart. So if I were to do like 2650 and, oops, sorry, oh my gosh, 2650, and if I were to click apply, notice what happens to our maximum frequency. It automatically adjusts so that the delta is 100 megahertz, just so it has enough range to play around with. And as I was actually monitoring the clock speeds while the system was under load, I was noticing that the frequency, the core clock frequency, would bounce outside of this range on occasion. So these are sort of like recommended guidelines, but the software and the drivers aren't exactly going to follow them precisely. If it feels the need to ramp down below the minimum, or if it thinks that it has additional headroom to go beyond it, it will, but just keep that in mind. So I'm going to go ahead and readjust that. So this is kind of what I've been using for all of my testing, and this seems pretty stable with the exception of Time Spy. In the 3D Mark Time Spy benchmark, it crashes every time. I actually have to downclock it just to, I think it's 2550 and 2650, and then it's perfectly fine. But for everything else, this is rock solid stable. And I was actually looking at some other overclocking videos on the RX 6800 XT reference, and no one could really hit this range. I think everyone that I saw for the most part was 2500 and 2600. So with the Red Devil, we're able to increase that range by 100 megahertz, which is going to give us a little bit more performance and obviously a higher frequency, so that's cool. But with that said, why don't we go ahead and roll the benchmark slides. I haven't even completely benchmarked the card in full yet. I've done all of the stock testing, but I have yet to run some overclocking tests. So after I show you the slides, we'll circle back and talk about the results. Here you go. So there are the results. What does it all mean? Well, just to make some observations on what you just saw, the performance that we saw from overclocking this card actually bumped up our synthetic scores quite a bit. In Firestrike Ultra and in Time Spy, we saw about an 8.5% uplift in both of those titles or applications, which is pretty nice. Obviously, you might have expected a little bit more from the crazy overclock that we put in. I mean, this thing was running sustained core clock frequency of 2660. That's right, 2660 megahertz, which is quite a bit faster, several hundred megahertz faster than what this card ships with, stock, and also definitely faster than the reference design. You might have expected double-digit gains or better performance than what we're seeing from the slides. But this is a good reminder that GPU core clock frequency doesn't always scale with raw gaming performance one-to-one or that linearly, right? There's other factors involved, and clock speed isn't everything. That being said, this is still a really fun card to overclock. It does have a lot of headroom in terms of frequency, and it does offer a bump in performance, but just not as much as you might expect given the crazy fast speeds that it's running at. When it came to the actual games, at 1440p, we didn't really see much uplift. In fact, in Ashes of the Singularity, I don't know what's with that title, but for some reason we were losing a couple frames, maybe just 2 or 3, as you saw in the slides. Nothing major, but it was consistently underperforming, so for whatever reason that title didn't like our overclock. And the other games at 1440p, there was really not much change at all, maybe a frame or two, which I'll chalk up to margin of error. We didn't really see the performance bump in real-world applications until we scaled up to 4K, which kind of makes sense because then we're the most GPU bound at that resolution. And there we saw a 5% bump in Far Cry 5 and an 8% bump in Division 2. So nice little gains there. It's free performance. And best of all, this card is still running pretty darn quietly and cool. So I actually did adjust the fan curve as I showed you guys on the screen earlier. It's a bit more aggressive than it was out of the box, but it's still fairly quiet. It's reasonable. It's much more audible now. Like you can hear it. I'll get my mic kind of close to it, my lavalier that's on my collar. You can hear it a little bit, but it's not like it's obnoxious, and it wouldn't really bother anyone, I think, inside of a closed chassis. Maximum temp on this thing right now is 60C. That's after, it's been running Unigine Heaven 4.0 for like 25 minutes now. It's completely heat soaked, and it's hitting a max of 60C, and it's still really quiet. So phenomenal job on the cooler that PowerColor's done here. It's cool, it's quiet, it's fun to overclock. You get a bit of a performance uplift. Nothing crazy, but it's one hell of a design that definitely trumps AMD's reference model. So overall, sweet card. You guys let me know what you think. Of course, I already know what all the comments are gonna be. Well, we can't even buy the card, it sucks. And I totally empathize with you. I'm not like mocking you. Like, I feel terrible. And it's frustrating for me too, because I always have to preface these videos now with like, hey, cool new hardware, but I know that you can't buy it. So again, my hope is that at some point soon, we'll be able to buy these cards once and for all. And that goes for the Ampere GPUs as well as, you know, even Ryzen 5000. And that at that point, these videos that I'm making and other reviewers are making on this hardware will become relevant and useful for you guys. That's why we're here. That's why we do what we do. So if you guys enjoyed this video, please toss a like on it before you go. Get subscribed for more tech content on the way, and I'll see you guys in the next one.